Good evening, it's Artzenin. So, we're finally here. We're going to be talking about Amber Fierce and her past. I just want to open up and say that originally, Something More, the prequel to Snapshot, seasons 1 through 4, was supposed to have been sweet, short, straight to the point, concerning specifically Deja and Amber more than Deja and Maxine. All three of the girls were going to be mentioned and talked about, but I was going to be emphasizing the importance, that's a good word, the importance of Amber's connection to Deja. So when you got into Snapshot, into season 1 and season 2, you see why Amber is just the way she is and how she is responding to Deja in their young adult life versus when they were just teenagers in Purity Vale, Oregon, in the United States. Something More was scheduled to drop this year in January. It was done. When I announced it last year, I think around February, March, April, I announced that I was going to drop Something More in season 1 of Insights with Artzenin, and I was so pumped. I did not lie to you. Since then, we've had more time to play with my characters and this particular story. This is an original story written by me, Artzenin, but I'm letting Zaion Studio push it and use this story in their own projects. So it's kind of a collaboration deal. And Amber was always the harder one to work with, to think about, to craft, because she is the Christianized version of Rachel Amber from Life is Strange. So we knew we had to do a good job. We really had to create a character that can give the audience the Rachel Amber effect, but without compromising our holy order and Christian principles. Now, granted, Amber Fierce is no Christian. Not yet. Or so I thought. I cannot, unfortunately, go into too much of her past, or it ruins her journal, and it ruins what the project manager who is over Amber Fierce specifically has already requested, that I do not reveal a majority of what is going on in the journals, which is part of her past, and also what she's doing in Snapshot season 1. So what I'm gonna do is reveal what happens to her in Purity Vale, her motives, and how she wound up getting saved, legit saved, which was not a thing before. That is a completely new development that we discovered 2 weeks ago. So let's open up with who is Amber Fierce. Amber Fierce is an important character, comes from a prestige, esteemed family, and she was in France first. They leave France and come over to the United States and settle in Purity Vale, where Maxine and Deja are. Originally, she was supposed to have come there to poach. She wanted to find people to draft into her little ring. She'd been controlled all of her life, and she knew that when she got older, she would be in a political position, in a high place where she could give commands to people. She would no longer be the one being barked at. She could give orders to people, and she wanted people that she could truly say, I trust you. Now, spiritually, Christians, if you're a Christian listening to this, the Lord says, do not trust people, do not lay up trust in princes and horses, the one who sleeps in your arms. Like, we are not supposed to trust people because we fail, we fall short, we're human, it's going to happen. We only trust Elohim. But Amber is of the world, she's fleshly, she could care less about any of that. So she is specifically, at the time, was going to look for people that she could control and command like that. Like it's nothing to her. They would be expendable to her, and they would have to basically vouch their entire life in servitude unto her. That changed a little bit. Her motive now is to find people that she genuinely could love and bond with, not just command, but form real relationships with. This is big because it seemed like to me when I observed Life is Strange 1, Rachel Amber was tight with Chloe, but in the end she still betrayed Chloe a little bit because of the whole Frank Bowers thing. And Rachel had her own secrets. Now in Before the Storm, I guess they backtracked and tried to show that no, they were actually close and they did all these things. But when you go with the French's version and what you saw in the first game, yes, Rachel and Chloe were close, but Rachel still was this mysterious person. Everyone was in love with her. Everyone was enamored by her. Everyone had something to say. I was going for that effect. But Amber Fierce keeps to herself. She's very selective. She's outgoing, but she's quiet. So people can talk about her, but it wouldn't be in the same dynamic way that you would hear Rachel Amber. I mean, when you hear Rachel Amber, your ears go up. When you hear Amber Fierce, your ears stay down. She's not going to draw attention to herself. But when she gets up with Deja, she wanted Deja because that was... think of it this way. Amber would be the fire and Deja was the gasoline. So both of them together, boom. And that exhilarated Amber like nothing else. She finally found somebody that could make her heart beat, that would make her want to strive to not unalive herself. I don't like that lingo, but because of certain platforms, I really do need to start using that term versus the other ones. But then you have Maxine, right? Maxine is not Deja. Maxine isn't close to anything that Amber would find exciting, compelling, and worth her time. But there is something that Maxine has. It's the quietness, the submissiveness, her gentle spirit, and the way that Maxine comes off as pure, even though Maxine has her own stuff going on that you can find in her past. I made vlogs about that. You'll have to watch them to learn about Maxine's past and read her journal. Even with that, Maxine is still a very lovable, likable, approachable character, but if you're not careful, she'll come off as someone who is an omega, someone you could dominate physically, sexually. Like, she would give off this vibe. So she essentially is somebody who needs to be protected. And Amber used to be friends with another girl who is parallel to that. So now, unlike the original version in my manuscript, when it was the rejection from Maxine, it was the way Maxine looked at everybody in the school, everyone in that town except her, and she would walk past her, leave the room, like she had nothing she wanted to contribute towards that encounter. It's like Amber didn't exist, and Amber is not used to being ignored. So the first manuscript was she got mad at Maxine because Maxine wasn't giving her time. Maxine was not acknowledging her existence whatsoever. She didn't do it to be mean, but Maxine was all about Deja, their friendship. Again, they're not lesbians, but you have to read Snapshot and their journals to understand why Maxine is primarily only close to Deja. They had other classmates, they had friends, but Maxine and Deja are soulmates. They are like this. Anybody outside of Deja, Maxine's not going to chase. She's just not interested. Amber picked up on that. Even in the first edition of my manuscript, Amber picked up on that. And she thought, what's going on between you two? Like, what is it that you're doing that I can't do, that I haven't done? So she wanted to meet Maxine. She wanted Deja to set up a meeting to where she could formally introduce herself, explain why she wanted to befriend Maxine. So the second edition, we're gonna do all of that, but the motive is different. It is because she reminds her of her past friend who is no longer among the living. So this is a second chance, essentially, for Amber, because Maxine is so close to that beloved person of her past before she left France and came to the United States. Amber thought, I can start over. Maybe I'm not that terrible of a person, because her friend and she had a falling out. It was a misunderstanding, and then she passed away, and they had that between them, and she felt very guilt-ridden. She was sorrowed over the fact that her friend is gone, and I cannot reveal her name. The project manager will not let me release that. Now, if you go to the website, you can find out her name, but I can't say it in passing, not even on my own vlog. It's out of respect to Zaion Studio, Snowclaw, who is also the project manager. We're all collaborating together to make this happen, so I really want to respect her wishes on this. And she is also over the friend that was with Amber as well, but I'm over Deja and Maxine. So when this new idea surfaced that Amber is not only just coming to the States to find close kinship and fellowship with an inner circle of people, but now she's pursuing Maxine because she wants her to notice her. She wants her attention. I mean, besides the familiarity and the traits of her deceased friend, Maxine herself is also very mysterious. Nobody messes with Maxine, and nobody really goes around Maxine. Why not? She wants to find out the mystery to Maxine. At school, there's bullies, but when Deja's around, the bullies back off. She knows Maxine is a Christian, goes to Purity Vale Fellowship Church. She figures this out pretty much on her own, or she just will ask Deja for whatever she wants to know. And she notices that she's crazy good with photography. And that is another driving factor for Amber. In the newest edition, in something more, she wants this girl to capture her. Everything she's hearing about her photography skills screams to Amber, this girl, Maxine, if you can get her to shoot you with her camera, you would be amazed at the results and her editing skills. So Amber wants Maxine to take photos of her, and she wants to look at these photos and decide if they're worthy to go into her own personal collection, because that friend who died drew pictures and I'm gonna have her take photos too of a certain type of animal. And she wants to see, can you beat my friend? Are you as good as her? Are you better than her? So these are the new factors that is driving Amber Fierce to want to be Maxine's friend. It is more legit on Amber's part, as opposed to her being a user and sneaking around. She's actually the opposite of Rachel Amber, because Rachel Amber seemed to be in the shadows and secretive, or she lived that double life. Amber Fierce was going to live a double life as well, but not so. Her parents are fully aware of what she likes to do when their backs are turned and when they're looking right at her. They are also fully aware that Amber is seeking retribution for the way they've treated her. I'm out of time. When I come back next week, we are going to be discussing Amber's discovery of Maxine's thing with the prince and the vault. And then we're finally going to talk about how she got saved and why that plays such a pivotal role into Snapshot. I'm really excited about it, and I hope to see you again. Do come back, because Amber is now the one carrying the series, because it was always about Maxine and Deja, but in reality, something more is going to emphasize Amber. And I just can't wait. Much love. Bye.